Now it's time for Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf, the #1 relationship advice radio show in the U.S.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ask Dr. Love. I'm so happy to be with you again this week. I have a question for you. Do you think it's possible you might be attached to an energy vampire? Whether you're a sensitive soul, an empath, or simply just a good person, you may have an energy vampire in your life. And what is an energy vampire? It's a narcissist, someone capable of completely draining you and making you feel it's all your fault. A narcissist can make you feel miserable, doubt yourself, and tell you how horrible you are while stealing your life blood. But there is an answer and a way to stay safe. And in this interview with Dr. Christiane Northrup, she's going to show you how to spot an energy vampire, know when they're controlling you, and set yourself free. So it's really wonderful to have Dr. Northrup with us on the show. She's a visionary pioneer in women's health, a board-certified OBGYN, New York Times bestselling author of Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, The Wisdom of Menopause, and Goddesses Never Age, as well as the host of 8 highly successful public television specials. Her work has been featured on The Oprah Winfrey Show, The Today Show, NBC Nightly News, The View, Rachel Ray, Good Morning America, 2020, and The Dr. Oz Show, among many others. Dr. Northrup was named one of the 100 most trusted people in America by Reader's Digest and one of Oprah Winfrey's Super Soul 100, a group of leaders who are using their voices and talent to awaken humanity. Dr. Northrup has also been named one of the Watkins Spiritual 100. That's a list of living people that make a unique and spiritual contribution on a global scale. And in December 2022, Dr. Northrup was one of 6 women to receive the Zelenko Foundation Rosa Parks Award, and honored for standing up for truth, God, and light against all odds, smears, obstacles, and censorship. She continues to inspire and awaken humanity through live events, her website, drnorthrup.com, social media presence, Facebook/Meta, Twitter, Telegram, her podcast, True North on Substack, and through her line of health and personal care product, Amada Life. I'm wondering what this sound is. What is this? What is this music? Do we know where this is coming from? Because it's very strange. It's not from your end, right, Dr. Northrup?
I can't even imagine how it would be, but
you know, I hate to tell you, my husband in spirit plays incredible games. He messes with me constantly. You know, you and I both are Hay House authors, right? We had our Hay House shows side by side. He messes with me. He turns music on, machines on and off, lights on. So I guess he wanted to say hello to you. And I'm sorry that he was.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
If he was going to do it with anyone, it's with you. I mean, I have a video of him and me where I say to him, okay, turn the lights on and off. And he does. And I say, turn them on, off. It's just, so it's a wild ride when you're with me. Anyway, I'm glad to meet you because you and I have been like spiritual ships passing in the night. Your show was always behind mine or ahead of mine on Hay House Radio. So I want to welcome you to Ask Dr. Love.
Thank you.
And the wild ride. So
that's right. That sounds great.
You know, I want to jump into your letter, your book, Dodging Energy Vampires, because I loved it. I really loved it. And, you know, the reason I said letter is because your introduction read to me like a love letter. And I felt you speaking from the heart and giving your reader your heart and the feeling. I'm watching over you. I'm talking with you personally. I'm devoted to guiding you to safety and freedom from these emotional vampires. And it's so well written too. So I just wanted to thank you for this book, because so many empaths are just, oh my goodness. So And, you know, I was going to ask you to begin because the other thing I love is your vulnerability. You talk about your own experiences with energy vampires. And usually we write our books based on the stuff we're grappling with, right? I mean, where else are you going to get the idea? So did you want to speak about that for a moment?
Yeah, I did not know the term narcissist. I didn't know what it was until I went through a divorce in 1999, which was the end of the 24-year marriage happened the day after I was on Oprah Winfrey for the very first time with Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. And as I was watching the Oprah show with my family, okay, so in the being on Oprah was a big, huge deal. If you were an author or whatever, it was just a big, big deal. And so I had my very first show with her. And so usually you would show, and a week later they would have the show on. And it was about my practice and my approach to women's health and so on. So I'm sitting in my living room and we're watching the Oprah show. My family at the time was not very supportive, except for my oldest daughter. One was, you know, why do we have to watch this show with mom? I want to play with my friends. You know, my then husband wanted me to look at some lesion on his ear, something. He's taking phone calls throughout the whole show. Then back into my home office, and I'm getting calls from my editor at Random House, the publicist at Random House, my PBS producer. They're all telling me how great the show is and what I had created in my own life. So let me take 100% responsibility for this, was an inner circle family where I was always trying to, in a way, make up for the fact that I was redoing women's health, but I still wanted to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother, all of it. And I'd literally created a thing where my outer world appearance was very, very supportive. And my inner world, my home and family, were really not safe for who I really was at all. And that's because I married certain aspects of my mother. And we all need to understand this.
We all marry our mothers.
Yes, and what we're trying to do, some people marry their fathers, but
it's usually the parent you had the most trouble with, you know?
Yeah, always, because what we're trying to do, everybody, so let me be clear, on a soul journey, you're trying to bring love into an area where it wasn't. So it's not, we repeat the pattern over and over. So, you know, if you find it in your mate, then you get rid of your mate, and then you find it in your boss, and then you find it in your best friend. And it's something that you repeat over and over. And as Doris E. Cohen says in her book, Repetition, also a Hay House book, she said, this is not neurosis. This is literally repetition to bring understanding and love to an area that there you didn't have it. And so once you recognize the pattern, empaths are born with a negative ego. We keep our ego alive by looking for things to improve about ourselves. And the narcissist is born with a superior ego. They think that nothing that they do is wrong. So it is a marriage made in heaven or hell, depending on how you look at it. And the narcissist is our biggest teacher. Ultimately our biggest teacher, because when you get to the point where you can see them coming before you get involved, then you've really made some soul progress. So what I would like people to do as they're listening to us, Jamie, is what are the names going through your head? Because 1 in 5 people has a personality disorder. Narcissists, men as narcissists, we think of women lines. Believe me, it's equal between the genders. It does not matter. And the borderline women are the ones that you can't please no matter how hard you try. So the good men choose those women across the room, and they see the woman who isn't smiling. think, oh, I can make her happy. And so they choose a woman you cannot make happy. You cannot. And so those are the women who are generally better looking than all of us, and they seem mysterious and interesting, and will be married for. And the men they've been with are just a husk by the side of the road. They suck the life out of the good men. With women, what you find is that the woman, oftentimes the guy seems larger than life. He's handsome. He's all of that. And those of us with the negative ego think, oh, he chose me. He chose me. Instead of putting a high price on your own head, what you do is you fall in love. Now, this is the key here, everybody. You fall in love not with who's there. You fall in love with who you see could be there if you fluff them up enough. So let me give you an example in my own marriage. So we're in medical school. I meet my husband, and I'm reading a book about angels. And he says, I cannot believe a woman of your intelligence would read crap like that. Okay, yeah. What do I do? Now what I walk away. At the time, it was like, oh no, I will teach him the wonders of the spiritual world. And this poor person does not have a faith that I have, but I will introduce him to that world and he will be happier. And so, right. Okay, so when
I'm thinking that, you talk a lot about the wounds that we suffer in childhood. This goes beyond, the past lives and the epigenetic element, but just the fact that most empaths have not had the ideal childhood experience. So it's very common for us to choose someone who reminds us of the parent who abused us, neglected us, abandoned us, because there's that fantasy, if I can fix this partner, I will feel like I'm getting the emotional goodies I lacked in childhood. I mean, it's a real compulsion, the repetition compulsion. I write about that in my first Hay House book. So it's not a neurosis. It's really a quest for healing. I want, and if I can save and fix this defective parent, and then later down the line, defective partner, I'm going to finally have somebody who's healthy enough to love me back,
There it is. There it is.
Yes.
And so the way to measure your progress is how long it takes you to see it in a person. But there are certain subcategory of empath that's really important. I learned from Sandra Brown, who wrote Women Who Love Psychopaths, a title that at first you go, but accept that it's true.
Yeah.
And that is, these are people who have super traits of loyalty, ability to work hard, the kind of women who are CEOs of major corporations, lawyers, doctors. They're not the women you think of from the other side of the tracks who are beaten, this kind of thing, the battered woman. No, these are people who are kind of captains of the world. And what we do, we're so capable that we really think we can save them. No one else could, but we can. So our skills that we would use in medicine or writing a book or running a company, we think we can apply those to a narcissistic individual. And the deal is this, we can't. But I want to tell you a couple things that happen. And you literally have congenital blindness to this kind of character. You just can't see it. So you've got to ask yourself, do your girlfriends like this guy? Okay. If they don't, chances are and then you're always making excuses for them. Or, you can't take them anywhere because you have to constantly be buffing them up. And, you don't want to have a partner where you've always got to be taking care of them at any social situation.
Right, or a partner or a project.
That's it.
Right.
That's very good, a project. And so once you see that, you might have to, got to have people who can see it before you do. And then you have to get to the point, and this often will take a while, You have to get to the point where you're trusting your friends that they're telling you the truth because you've learned your lesson. And there's a book called In Sheep's Clothing by George Simon, Dr. George Simon. And he came on the course that I did on dodging energy vampires. And he used to teach therapists about these personality types. It's 1 in 5 people. And and at the beginning, so this is like 25 years ago, half the therapists would leave the room because the therapists went into becoming therapists to heal themselves and heal their own world. And so here's someone telling you there's a group of people that you can't help.
Yeah.
And they refuse to believe it because here is the lie that he told me. And the lie is this: only hurt people hurt people. Only people who've been hurt in childhood hurt other people.
But
And
have you noticed that the
true?
the empaths are also often hurt, but they choose to go into helping others and trying to heal others, whereas the narcissists and the psychopaths, they're hurt too, but they inflict harm. So it can go two ways.
Yeah, it can go two ways. Healing only happens from the inside. And
Right.
what narcissists live on is what is called narcissistic supply. This is a very important term, and it is your attention, your money, your sexuality, your fame, whatever it is. They live on that. And here's the deal: they have malignant intuition. The minute you start to wake up, the minute you start to withdraw that narcissistic supply, they, with uncanny detail, exactly what you need to hear to stay.
Yeah.
And so they will just give you a crumb, and then you'll say, oh, he really gets it. He really does understand me. And then you'll stay. And the other thing is this: we have so much faith and so much energy that we can live on the potential, what Ann Wilson called the process of the promise.
Oh, wow.
He will get better in time. Oh, he's made strides. When, I remember listening to a sports guy say, potential means he ain't done shit yet.
Ain't that the truth? Right.
That is the truth. So here's what we have to do. And we're going to think that we're being a hard ass. We're going to think that it's hard-hearted to finally just say what they do. They're very good at crocodile tears. They cry at movies. You think that they're much more sensitive than they are. They're not sensitive. What they're doing is they know what it takes to keep you on the hook. They know exactly. And here's what's so painful for so many people. And that is this, and I have a good friend who went through this, very handsome guy that she was married to. And she thought at the beginning, because he ran a family business, and so he had all kinds of time to spend with, and it was, she was so all of that. The minute they got married, he got one illness after the other to keep her on the hook. She was the sole provider of the family, all the rest of it. And finally, when she was completely exhausted, she was ready to finally divorce him. He didn't want her to announce the divorce to their son, so she had to wait and wait. I said, why aren't you just telling? Oh no, it will ruin his life. And finally, she does it. And I said to her, okay, are you willing to watch this guy remarry in 15 minutes? Are you willing to go through that? Because that is what's going to happen. And by God, he married a Texas oil heiress, and now he's skiing at all the resorts. He went from being, they can really do pathetic well to get your attention. I mean, he gained weight, he looked terrible, but then get another source of narcissistic supply. He works out, he diets, he looked like $1 million, and of course snags another woman who's paying for everything. Now, she has healed at this point, and and me, like I have, and it doesn't matter. But you have to understand, there were people who had read George Simon's book or mine who said they'd been married to a narcissist for 30 years and no therapy. Here's one of the
The
problems. Amy.
therapists don't tell them.
The therapist, what they'll do, particularly a couples therapist, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, the therapist will do whatever you need to hear to stay in the relationship.
Yeah,
Very
and that's
few
ridiculous. Right,
well-
because now you're just like helping somebody destroy somebody else. Let's take a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Are you a business looking to expand across the USA? Ask Dr. Love reaches millions, offering you a unique opportunity to reach out to almost every adult listening group, as everyone is concerned about their relationships. There is no other relationship advice show broadcast anywhere else in the USA. By advertising on Ask Dr. Love, your company can reach an audience that no other show touches. Visit AskDrLove.com and fill out the contact form to get in on this tremendous opportunity. Fill out the contact form at AskDrLove.com right now and get all the details. Will it be your company that gets to take advantage and grow your business?
Want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call, because the best prices are not online. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner. Call today and get the best price on your next flight, guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. If your heart is still hurting over the bodily loss of your loved one, the reason is simple. We're not meant to be separated from those we love, and reconnecting is the only way to end the grief. But reconnecting and staying connected requires guidance. As a gift to her listeners, Dr. Turndorf is offering a limited number of discounted grief relief sessions to help you reestablish a relationship with loved ones in spirit and resolve any unfinished issues. If you're ready to experience the healing and joy of reconnecting, visit drjamieturndorf.com/grief relief to schedule your session. But don't wait, space is limited. Visit drjamieturndorf.com/grief relief to find out more. And now, back to Dr. Turndorf.
Welcome back to Ask Dr. Love. I'm talking with the wonderful Dr. Christiane Northrup about energy vampires. Before we took the break, you made a really good point about how a lot of therapists are working to save the relationship, even if the relationship is toxic. And I remember I had a narcissist wife who was verbally assaulting. She was also borderline, but she was verbally assaulting her husband. And he was bawling his eyes out to the point the mucus was falling on the floor. Most therapists are afraid to use their aggression with patients and basically tell them to hit the road. They can't do this. And, I said to her, I'm not going to allow you to sit here and verbally assault him. You might as well just take my book and smash him over the head and beat him with it. This is not permitted. I had a couple that was doing this and I said, where'd you get the idea you're allowed to do this with each other? Now, really? We can't? It's not allowed. People are given permission to misbehave. And I totally don't agree with that. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I had a wonderful physician that I met last year, and they'd been to therapy for 4 years. And every single time he was told, you need to be a better man. Well, let me tell you, if you are married to a borderline, there is it will not work. And so for you and I to give a person permission to walk away, because we're told everything. We're told that you can be a doormat, you can be a it's for the children, what will people think, all the rest of it. When you put yourself first, and quite frankly, in my experience, the Hay House audience is, and many, many other spiritual people are very willing to do this martyr thing.
Oh, wow.
And we need to stop it.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for having the courage to say that. And I'm going to also give you kudos for something else I read in your book. You know, a lot of the spiritual New Age audience is all about, oh, forgive. And I say that is a bunch of bullshit.
It is.
You're being abused because what you bury your rage and then you become sick. And so I say, no, you want to understand. You can understand the other person. You can understand whatever the person's issues or traumas are, but that doesn't mean you bury your feelings in a shallow grave and become a doormat and a martyr. Hell no. Hell no. And that's a real flaw in the New Age movement. It really is.
It is. And I'll tell you, there's another piece that they miss, and it's called contrition and repentance. And I thought particularly the term repentance had a kind of a religious fundamentalist taint to it. And then I learned that is not it. Repentance means, and contrition, George pointed out, is to be broken into a million pieces and to look in the mirror and admit. It's the fourth step of the 12-step program. Admit what you have done wrong, and then it's your job to make up for it. And if you have true repentance and true contrition, you will do what it takes to win back the relationships that you have damaged. But what you're going to find with the narcissists,
it's all empty.
Move on. No, they move on, and Ann Wilson.
They won't, because they don't have what it takes to look at themselves. Now, I wanted to also take a little moment to talk about a passage in the book where you talk about the brain scans and how the brains, right, of those with narcissistic personality disorder show that they are lacking development in the part of the brain that has empathy, right? And
that's right.
And you said you thought Freud was wrong, that it isn't because they had early developmental problems. So I wanted to take issue with that. And I wanted to just give you something to think about here. So I believe, you know, we know when we look at the MRIs of trauma brain, right? We see neuro pathways where the brain is used to firing in certain ways because the brain is being used. It's going down that trauma pathway. I think that what happens with the narcissists is that they're raised by parents who have no empathy, so they don't develop that part of the brain. It's like it's atrophied. It's not being used, you know, and it is a result of trauma. Usually narcissists were raised by narcissistic and abusive parents. So their parents didn't show them empathy and they didn't develop it. So they're anemic, you know, in that part of the brain. This is just what I think.
Well, I think that makes sense. But occasionally you'll get a kid that's born to normal parents, and they're the kid that is torturing pets.
Yes, I understand that there's some abnormality in the brain.
Yeah. So, but either way, I think this is the key. It doesn't really matter what the cause of it is. What matters is the fact that you don't sacrifice your whole life trying to help them when the only way they can be helped is from within. Now, for instance, I want to give you an example. So, kids with Asperger's, okay? I have a friend who's got an Aspergery son, but the son has no narcissism, none. Say to his dad, because he misses social cues, and he goes, okay, am I supposed to stand up here at this point? How should I do that? And he's literally sweet. He's sweet. He's asking from the point of view of, I happen to know, I'm looking around, I miss social cues, and I want to learn how to fit in.
Right.
An Aspergery person with narcissism.
It's like, oh my God, that's like run for the hills, right? And we find that the narcissists, they might say they want to change, especially when a partner they want to keep is going to leave, but they could give two shits about changing. It's all bullshit. They have no intention to change. And if it's based on, what I've seen over decades working with these people, to change would mean they'd have to access such horrific pain from their childhood that they cannot do that. So they're not going to look at it. It's like, how many psychiatrists does it take to change a light bulb? You know how many, right? One, but the light bulb's really got to want to change.
No, but it's true. And the deal is, if they're not going to do the work, I did couples therapy for 3 years. And what would happen is he would sit there and he would say nothing, or he would begin to have the crocodile tears. And what happens, you need to understand, these people they should get Academy Awards.
Oh God,
for the acting, because everyone thinks that the empath who's got it together, and they think that we're the bad one, when in fact it's the other person.
Absolutely.
So it's
absolutely. Let's take a break and we'll be back in a moment.
great.
Are you a business looking to expand across the USA? Ask Dr. Love reaches millions, offering you a unique opportunity to reach out to almost every adult listening group, as everyone is concerned about their relationships. There is no other relationship advice show broadcast anywhere else in the USA. By advertising on Ask Dr. Love, your company can reach an audience that no other show touches. Visit AskDrLove.com and fill out the contact form to get in on this tremendous opportunity. Fill out the contact form at AskDrLove.com right now and get all the details. Will it be your company that gets to take advantage and grow your business?
Want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call, because the best prices are not online. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner. Call today and get the best price on your next flight, guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. If your heart is still hurting over the bodily loss of your loved one, the reason is simple. We're not meant to be separated from those we love, and reconnecting is the only way to end the grief. But reconnecting and staying connected requires guidance. As a gift to her listeners, Dr. Turndorf is offering a limited number of discounted grief relief sessions to help you reestablish a relationship with loved ones in spirit and resolve any unfinished issues. If you're ready to experience the healing and joy of reconnecting, visit drjamieturndorf.com/grief relief to schedule your session. But don't wait, space is limited. Visit drjamieturndorf.com/grief relief to find out more. And now, back to Dr. Turndorf.
Welcome back to Ask Dr. Love. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf, talking with the wonderful Dr. Christian Northrup. My husband made me say it with the French accent. Pardon. So you're so great. So, one thing I wanted to just take a second to talk about is a subcategory of narcissists that even therapists don't know about. So women can really be blindsided by these vulnerable narcissists. You know what I'm talking about. They're not grandiose. They don't act larger than life. They don't have all that charisma. And for an empath, that's like, a fly being drawn to honey because, they're so wounded, the poor thing. Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what they do, so here's the thing. So let's say that you're out at a social gathering and the guy plays on your sympathy, your empathy, and says, ever since the divorce, my wife won't let me see the kids.
Oh, poor me.
A normal woman would think, what a loser. I mean, that's not the line you start out with, because real men do not lead with weakness. Ever. But the empath go, oh my God, I can heal him. Okay. So the deal is always to put a high price on your own head. Now, when you do this, you're going to feel incredibly uncomfortable. You're going to feel like a bitch because you're going to have to go through all that childhood programming that you're not allowed to have a need. I want to give you an example. I did a workshop once, and you probably know these things where you remember the emotion and the need that was created by the guy who created the language. I'm forgetting his name.
The love language, the 5 love languages. No.
Nope. This
What do you-
is oh, it's so interesting that I can't remember. But anyhow, what he said, every emotion that you have signifies an unmet need.
Uh-huh.
So you learn that, and he brokered peace all over the planet, and he has an inventory. So if you go to, emotional inventory, needs inventory, and he gives you all of the emotions. And what we did, we had little cards that had needs on one little card and emotions on the other. And then you were asked to tell a story that triggered you for whatever reason. And then 2 people were in the group. And as you're telling the story, they would hand over, I'm hearing that this might be a need for information, a need for validation, a need for just someone to listen. And it was the first time in my life, and I'm serious, that I realized, oh my goodness, allowed to have a need.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's like so many women, especially it's part of the female general, nurses, doctors, teachers. It's like you're put on this earth to be selfless and take care of other people's needs.
That's right.
It's so built into the culture. It's not surprising to hear you say, well, I'm allowed to have a need. I mean, I'm allowed to not be a doormat. I'm allowed to put myself first, you know?
That's right.
And then if you started with the imprint as a kid, I've got this parent who's abusing me and neglecting me and abandoning me, and I'm going to wipe myself out and devote myself to trying to heal this parent, that really sets you up to ignoring your own needs because you're focused on fixing the parent.
That's right. So it requires, you have to understand that when you, give you an example. So the first year after my divorce, the children's father came to the door. He was going to take them. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I have ruined their lives.
Oh,
Meaning my kids' lives.
yeah.
Now, in retrospect, I realized I saved their lives because if I hadn't gone through this, now this is something that I know, and your listeners may not get this, but believe me, this has been my whole career. Everything in the body that happens with your health is biosymbolic. I knew that I would get bilateral inflammatory breast cancer and be dead within a year. I knew it.
I don't doubt it, because it was like if you were going to be, poisoning, the center of your nurturance is like becoming poison to you.
What it is you're giving, nothing's ever coming back. So remember, cancer is the physical metaphor for the extreme need to grow. That's the guy who started Memorial Sloan Kettering said that. And so I knew that I was in love with the back walking away. Like I could give and give and give, and I would never get anything back. But here's the problem. If that's the imprint from childhood, you don't even know
It's
what
totally
normal
unconscious.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's totally
totally.
unconscious. I had a woman who kept getting breast cancer over and over again, and it was not metastatic, and it was always a different form of cancer. And she had a severe issue with an abusive, abandoning mother. And she always talked in this little baby voice, and she lived her life to be a caretaker, caretaking everybody. And I said to her, I'm telling you right now, that if you don't access your rage, because you are enraged, if you
Yeah.
don't access it, you're going to die of cancer. I helped her find her rage toward her mother, rage toward her boy. Do you know she never got cancer again? And
No,
I
of course not.
find that with cancer, with cancer, a lot of it is the rage is eating you up on the inside. You know, you want to be
Mhm.
cared for, but you're becoming a caretaker, hoping that the other person will follow your lead and give back what you give. And you're just burning up inside with rage over your unmet
That's
needs.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but because again, but if you got the idea, you're not allowed to have needs. So the only way you're going to get any human companionship is to be of service. You know, there's no, just you being around someone isn't enough. There's something you got to do for them. So you're kind of always,
Yes, that's right. Like, I don't just deserve. It's not like, you know, like the 23rd Psalm when you, I love to recite that with people who are unentitled, because it all talks about God giving to you. He prepared the table before me in the presence of, he anoints my head with, it's not about, well, I have to kiss somebody's ass or take somebody's abuse or clean up his crap. No, this is my birthright to be overwhelmingly loved and fed and nurtured. Yes.
that's right. And so what happens if you're willing to take this journey, if you're willing to take the journey, and you know, many people are not, because it's almost like, okay, my fear of being alone is so great that I will put up with this.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'll just put up with this so that I won't be alone. And then you realize more and more and more that you're never as alone as you are with somebody who just can't be there for you. Then you're really lonely. Then you're just, and then you find,
and you're dying because, you know, you have a lot of excellent discussion in the book about the cytokine storm that occurs, you know, the inflammation, you know, the whole, you know, the fibromyalgia, the Hashimoto's thyroiditis, the autoimmune diseases, all these things that are on the heels of this selfless sacrifice, diabetes, you know, premature. It's so you think, well, I'd rather be alone than have all that sickness, you know, but people don't realize that's the choice that they're making.
No, because this is what I would find is these women would come in with all of those things you just mentioned, and they would do everything. I mean, they would do a raw vegan diet, they would do celery juice, they would do everything. They only got better once that energy vampire was in their lives, and once they had fulfilled that emptiness inside. And then only then, now sometimes, this is interesting, sometimes there is another mate waiting in the wings. And I've seen that. I even had a patient who was recovering from breast cancer. And I was doing a joint workshop with the medical intuitive Carolyn Mace. And Carolyn said to her, you can, and she had been given a clean bill of health. And Carolyn said to her, you can stay in that marriage if you truly love him. You can stay in that marriage. But if you don't, if you're just staying because you don't want to be abandoned, then you're at risk. Well, wouldn't you know, 1 year later, that to my office with a second primary, a completely different tumor in the other breast. And I asked her what was going on. And she had a man who loved her waiting in the wings for her to leave the energy vampire. Her need to not be abandoned was so huge that she actually realized this. It was more comfortable for her to die of breast cancer. So that she would not be left. She would be the one leaving, but she let the cancer do it for her, you see.
But then that's really telling us what a profoundly injured person she was, because there was no abandonment here. She had someone waiting in the wings to catch her, but it was like she was so undeserving. And I think too that there's to be able to step into I deserve more, you have to be willing to look at how little you had growing up. So you have to walk through the fire, you have to step into the mouth of the lion, and you have to go through a period of painful, like a dark night of the soul, to realize what you didn't have. And that takes a lot of
That's
courage
right.
to be able to face that and to come out the other side and say, but yes, I do deserve more. A lot of people find that prospect, I don't even want to know that pain. It's so horrible,
That's right. But then you find out, okay, it's what we call the pain that ends the pain.
Yeah,
So
the
you
pain that ends
finally-
the pain. Yeah.
You finally get down on a mat or whatever, and then you just scream with rage or you bawl your eyes out. And then you find out many times, by the way, you come out the other side laughing. What people think is that if I allow myself to feel how bad it is,
Yeah,
I
it
will be
was.
stuck there forever.
Yes.
I will never,
Yes.
the abyss is deep. There's
Yes.
no bottom to it.
Yes. Yes.
What you find instead. Okay, the body heals through movement, sound, and tears. Movement, sound, and tears. And those things are like a grappling hook. They go through your body, they take out. Watch that process with Ann Wilson Schaef's Living This workshops where people would just get down on a mat. Now, no one hugging them. Remember this. Okay, let's see that someone and they're in emotional pain. What we want to do, oh, do you need a hug? That's us wanting to stop their process. We hug them so we don't have to feel it, because it's difficult to watch somebody go through the process. But if you trust the process of life, and I do, because as an OBGYN, I sat by during labor. But, I trust this process. I'm not trying to stop it. You go all the way in and all the way out, and you come out a different person. So
But there's somebody who catches you. When the baby comes out, the baby is caught. So I do like the analogy of we all need to feel caught, held, and understood. So I think if you can do this birthing if you know there's somebody catching you, somebody saying, I'm holding you in that, you're a newborn, I'm understanding your pain.
Well, what
that
you
makes
do
it
with
easier.
that is you sit with them and hand them
in their pain.
Yeah, but you don't stop it. You
Hell
don't
no.
stop it.
You want
Right.
to, they want, because you want to know I'm holding you, but I'm in that dark pit with you.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
And the other thing is, just to back up for 1 second, that feeling of, oh, it'll never stop. When you hear yourself saying that, when a patient says it'll never stop, it's a clue that you're in a very young emotional state, like around 3. Because when you're 3, you say, oh, it's always going to be this way. It's never going to end. That's a baby thought. So the fear that it's never going to stop. If I let myself go back to the painful place, it's always going to be this way. It's just the young brain confusing you. You know what I mean?
Right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you can practice. One of the things I have in the book, Dodging Energy, practice. So let's say that you have someone, I don't know, at your office maybe, or someone in your life who's constantly coming in to get narcissistic supply from you. You just practice being a gray rock. You just patient who said that she did that, but felt guilty. She felt guilty that she wasn't making the person feel better.
Oh,
They're
God.
interrupting you. So be a gray rock, just, and then with a narcissist, let's say that you have separated from the narcissist, but you have someone that you have children with, or whatever. You just don't give energy. There are ways to do this. Just give them no energy. Here's the deal. Talk about me good, talk about me bad, just talk about me. They're perfectly happy to have your attention, even if it's negative. They want to keep it stirred up all the
Absolutely
time.
That
Yeah.
is absolutely right. Because, you want to give ice in winter, like nothing, absolutely nothing, because even negative attention is attention. You want to give nothing.
That's right.
And
right.
when you talk about healing the vampire trauma, like you say, well, leaving isn't going to make everything okay. You got to, you go through in one chapter all the steps you have to take to heal yourself. But being the gray rock is sort of like the start to disengage. It's like, I haven't yet fully left, but I'm not going to be sucked in anymore. It's kind of like when you're in a tug of war, you let go of the rope. You just let go and then they fall backwards. There's nobody there.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's absolutely true. So
Mhm.
do you still do the workshops on this topic?
In a while, but a online course that is still available. If you go to drnorthrop.com, you can find the online course. And that was done with Sandra Brown, who wrote Women Who Love Psychopaths. It was done with George Simon. I had all the world's best people taking you step by step through it. But, I found just for women and men reading the book, it's also on Audible because I recorded the book.
The
Oftentimes,
book itself is healing. I have no doubt that the book is healing because even just reading it, your voice comes through.
Mhm.
One thing I wanted to mention is a lot of people who have been wounded in childhood and of course become empaths and try to fix their abusive, abandoning parents.
Right.
Lots of times people think, well, and this is traditional therapy talking now. If your parents are no longer in a body, you're shit out of luck. It's too late. You're stuck. So this is why I introduced in Love Never Dies my transdimensional grief resolution method, so that people who have been injured can reconnect to hated ones in spirit and heal the unfinished business. And, sometimes you have to wait. Often you have to wait till they're out of a body and they're more able to see how they did you harm in order to be able to heal those painful wounds. And what I find for a lot of empaths who have been with really disturbed narcissistic partners is that when they do this work and they heal the unfinished business, suddenly they're much more entitled. They're so much more healed that they're no longer willing to stay in these dysfunctional relationships, and they need to do that step of healing the unfinished business with a parent or another person.
And then I'll tell you what you find is that you eventually you realize that a lot of your relationships were created from the point of attraction of that wounded child. So
Absolutely.
my
Absolutely.
entire social life and the people that I'm around now are completely different than
Absolutely right. Absolutely. The wounded child draws you. It's like, when the bells and whistles go off and you're so excited when you first meet because your unconscious says, wait a minute, I'm recognizing a mother or a father who did me harm. And I am excited because hope springs eternal. This time around, I'm going to be such a good empath and caretaker. I'm going to fix you and I'm going to win love. So absolutely, that wounded place, that old scar is what drives us to make these choices. You heal the wound with the parent or whoever that person was who did you harm, and you're free. You stop feeling that compulsion. I don't have to heal the wound anymore. I just did it directly with my parent in spirit. I love it. And I didn't even believe in God or the afterlife. Would you believe till my husband left his body? I didn't even believe.
Wow.
I was a total atheist. My parents were devout atheists. And my husband had been for most of his life a famous Jesuit priest. He had taught at the Vatican.
Oh my God.
And founded the Liberation Theology movement. And he and I didn't discuss religion, but the minute he left his body, I was, whoa, it's right here. And that's what transformed everything for me. Wow, our relationships shouldn't end. It's never too late to heal. You don't have to be a walking wounded empath who's trying to heal everybody to try to get your goodies through the back door. No, it completely changed my life. Yeah, that he had to leave his body for me to get that.
But I do love what you said. I healed a lot with my father, when he'd been dead 30 years. So you're right, you can absolutely do that. And I think this is, what do you call it? When it's, abnormal grief, there's a term.
Oh, they call it the complicated grief syndrome and
whatever.
And all that.
Yeah, it's crap really, because it doesn't need to be that way.
And you and I are so on the same page, because I say the only reason you have protracted grief is because you have unfinished business with that person and you're crying over the fact that, oh, now you're dead and I have no hope of ever getting what I needed from you. So the only way to heal your grief is to reconnect. And anyway, we're not supposed to be disconnected from the people we love and hate. We're supposed to continue our relationships with them.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we finally had a chance to be together. It was really
Yeah.
precious being with you. And I just love you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You've been
Yeah.
wonderful. So, if there's anything you want to share before we close, how people can sign up for your newsletter, get the free gift of your book, would you like to share that now?
Yes, if you go to drnorthrup.com, I have a free newsletter. I'm also on, I have a Substack called True North on Substack. I do things on Twitter, a little bit on Instagram, some on Facebook, but really, I think the very best way is the drnorthrup.com, our e-news, and and the Substack is sort of my, these are my inner circle thoughts at the moment. But when the pandemic began, I was with I had met the love of my life, and then he left. In April of 2020, he died, and
He left
so
his
I
body.
have had
He left his body.
um, he left his body, and there were very good reasons for it. And it was like, okay, we're at the beginning of the last 3 years, and in a way, he sort of set the stage for me to do this other thing that I was doing, because he was a professor emeritus of public health. And he had said to me, I think you should go to the State House and testify and all that sort of thing. But what happened as a result, it's just like you and your husband. He's very present in life, because I healed so much with him and he with me in a short period of time.
Absolutely fantastic. I'd love to talk to you more about that, because that's very profound and people don't speak about this very often. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, your show will be on your dedicated show page on Ask Dr. Love. And I gave your executive assistant, Diane,
Yep.
the link, so you can point people to your show indefinitely, because it'll be on your page on my website forever.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right.
Thank you so much for being with me and for the work you do. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. Sign up for Dr. Jamie's newsletter at askdrlove.com and receive her meditation audio that will guide you to open your heart and chill out during these stressful times.